The Zephyrian High Command had studied humanity for 3 rotations before making their decision. They observed the small blue world through quantum telescopes, cataloging the species' curious habits, their tendency to fight among themselves, their inefficient resource distribution, their bizarre attachment to individual freedoms. The aliens concluded that these creatures would surrender within days of a proper demonstration of superior force. They were wrong. Commander Vexthal stood before the holographic display in his flagship's war room, his forearms gesticulating in frustration. The conquest of Earth should have been completed weeks ago. Instead, the humans had done something unprecedented in the Zephyrian Empire's 1,000-year history of expansion. They had refused to break. "Report," Vexthal commanded, his translator converting the harsh clicks and whistles into galactic standard. Sub-Commander Kylith's mandibles clicked nervously. "Sir, our ground forces have been repelled from 17 major population centers. The humans, they fight differently than our projections indicated." "Explain." "They don't follow conventional military doctrine. Civilians transform into combatants without warning. They use improvised weapons, guerrilla tactics, and—" Kylith paused, struggling with the concept. "They seem to fight harder when outnumbered." Vextal's optical organs narrowed. "Impossible. Fear should drive them to surrender, not resistance." On the surface of Earth, Staff Sergeant Maria Santos crouched behind the rubble of what had once been downtown Chicago. Her squad of 8 soldiers, what remained of the 82nd Airborne's Charlie Company, prepared for another assault on the Zephyrian forward base. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and running low on ammunition. By all logical measures, they should have surrendered days ago. Instead, Maria checked her rifle and smiled grimly. "Remember what Colonel Hayes said before the drop," she whispered to her team. "They wanted to break our spirit. Time to show them what human spirit actually looks like." The Zephyrians had made their first mistake during the initial invasion. Rather than targeting military installations exclusively, they had bombed civilian centers to demonstrate the futility of resistance. The images of destroyed schools and hospitals had done the opposite of their intended effect. Where the aliens expected despair, they found fury. Where they anticipated surrender, they discovered a species that grew more dangerous when cornered. Dr. James Chen worked frantically in the underground laboratory beneath MIT's ruins. The alien technology they had salvaged from crashed fighters was decades ahead of human science. But Chen and his team had something the Zephyrians lacked: desperation-fueled innovation. While the aliens followed rigid protocols and established procedures, humans improvised. "The plasma conduits are incompatible with our power grid," Chen muttered to his assistant, Dr. Sarah Kim. "But if we bypass the safety systems and reroute through the emergency generators, that could create a feedback loop," Kim warned. "The entire facility could explode." Chen's eyes gleamed. "Or we could have enough power to get the orbital defense grid back online. The aliens wouldn't expect us to risk everything on such a dangerous modification." This was humanity's secret weapon. Not superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but the willingness to attempt the impossible when survival was at stake. The Zephyrians' careful calculations hadn't accounted for a species that would rather die fighting than live in subjugation. Meanwhile, in the ruins of London, 10-year-old Tommy Wright clutched a modified radio transmitter. The Resistance had given him one job: broadcast coordinates of alien patrol routes to hidden fighters throughout the city. Tommy had lost his parents in the first bombardment, but rather than breaking him, the tragedy had forged him into something harder than steel. He spoke into the device with the cold precision of a veteran soldier. "Phoenix Base, this is Sparrow. Count 20 hostiles moving through Sector 7. They've got heavy weapons, but they're bunched up. Perfect for the surprise Chen cooked up." The surprise was Dr. Chen's latest creation: jury-rigged alien energy weapons mounted on everything from pickup trucks to shopping carts. The humans had learned to strip crashed alien fighters faster than the Zephyrians could recover them, turning the invaders' own technology against them. Back on the flagship, Vexthal received increasingly desperate reports from his field commanders. His species had conquered 47 worlds using the same basic strategy: demonstrate overwhelming force, break the enemy's will to fight, accept, surrender. It had never failed. "Sir," Kyleth's voice cracked with stress, "the humans have somehow restored their orbital defenses. They're using our own plasma technology, but they've modified it beyond our recognition. Our engineers say the modifications should be impossible. The power requirements alone should destroy their facilities. Yet they persist," Vexthal observed grimly. "That's not all, sir. They've begun what they call fire and steel campaigns. Instead of defending fixed positions, they've gone fully mobile. Small groups are attacking our supply lines, our communication arrays, even our off-world mining operations. They're using captured ships to strike at targets 3 systems away." Vexthal realized with growing horror that his forces weren't fighting a conventional military. They were battling an entire species that had collectively decided death was preferable to defeat. Every human civilian was a potential soldier, every piece of debris a potential weapon, every setback fuel for greater determination. The final blow came when Captain Elena Vasquez, piloting a heavily modified human fighter loaded with alien plasma bombs, broadcast a message on all frequencies as she dove toward the Zephyrian flagship. "You wanted to break our spirit. Instead, you forged us into something stronger. This is for every child who won't grow up afraid." The explosion that followed sent shockwaves through both the Zephyrian fleet and their understanding of warfare itself. As Vexthal watched his command ship's hull breach and felt the artificial gravity failing, he finally comprehended the truth about humanity. They hadn't just failed to break the human spirit, they had refined it into its purest, most dangerous form. In trying to crush these stubborn creatures, the Zephyrians had awakened something that defied every principle of their orderly, hierarchical civilization, a species willing to sacrifice everything for the simple right to remain free. As the evacuation alarms wailed and Zephyrian ships began their retreat from Earth's solar system, Vexthal transmitted his final report to the High Command. Recommendation: add human space to the prohibited sectors. Reason: when pushed to their limits, they don't break. They become fire and steel. The war was over. Humanity had won not through superior technology or numbers, but through the one thing their enemies couldn't understand: an unbreakable spirit that grew stronger under pressure. The aliens had tried to break them and instead discovered that some things, once tested in fire, emerge harder than any steel the universe had ever seen.